to Retraction. I'm your co-host, Antoine.
I'm your co-host, Jamie. And if you like reversing course through discourse with Antoine and I, please subscribe. See if you like the show.
And like, if you like the show.
In time. I don't want to push anyone.
Hit that thumbs up. It's there for a reason.
You do it.
Yeah.
Antoine wants you to hit the thumbs up. I want you to subscribe. How about you meet us halfway and do both?
And just watch. If he's halfway, watch the show. Got him.
So I had a quick thought I want to jump right into because I don't know if we'll spend too much time on it. And it goes on what we were talking about last episode.
Yeah.
And it was about my Elon question. So if anyone wants to go into that, just go on to episode, I believe, 116. But basically, I was like, dude, Elon's being kind of weird in his behavior. And I wasn't judging the behavior so much in itself, but it's strange. And I was asking why. Why is he doing this?
And
why is
give you an answer?
Changing his name to Harry Balls, and why is he changing Twitter's name to Titter, and then why is he railing against NPR and calling it state media, and just like the spectrum of really weird lowbrow humor to really detrimental things to society. I just don't know why. And was it because he was some giant man child going unchecked? I don't know, and that's kind of what you may have offered up as a feasible but still unknown possibility.
Well, I mean, since then I've come back with he may have syphilis.
Okay, I didn't know that. You just threw that one out there. That kind of blindsided me. I just didn't
throw it out last time, and I thought about it, and I said I didn't. When I listened back to the show,
that's treatable, though, isn't it? I mean,
if you catch it, I wouldn't be surprised if he's waiting for the Mars doctor. He's like, I'll get it treated when I get to Mars.
Okay, so that's
like, I'm too busy. I have way too much to do. I will treat my syphilis
I'm sleeping on the couch in my office. I don't have time to seek medical advice.
I can see him going that route.
All right, well, that's
probably why he broke up with his girlfriend.
Oh my God, I can't speak to any of this. Did he? I didn't even know. Wasn't he married or no? I don't know.
I didn't know they were married.
I don't know. I don't know any of it. I don't know
his personal.
I don't know anything about his personal life. I just remember seeing
material. It shouldn't be material to.
Okay.
I mean, he's
it doesn't
not a public
matter.
figure. He's just a guy who owns a lot of stuff.
So Antoine's
and may or may not have syphilis.
Antoine is putting a stake in the ground, spreading misinformation.
Yeah. Take it, Internet.
That's fine. But my take on this is through a documented latest development. And that is he's kind of resurfacing this idea of an everything app. If you've ever heard of it before, it's called X. We've covered it on the pod before when we did a profile on Elon, and he's brought it up numerous times himself. And so the idea here is that he purchased this X domain. It's no secret that he wants to come up with an everything app. Other countries have similar things like this where you can just do so much more than what you would do on Twitter. And it got me thinking that maybe he's just not deploying lowbrow pranks for personal entertainment, but instead he's actively trying to diminish everyone's affinity of Twitter so that when he launches this everything app, there's much less resistance to enter the market.
Okay, interesting theory. Here's my counter. You could degrade the view of Twitter in the public sphere, but in doing so, you're also degrading the view of yourself in the public sphere. And so if you need public confidence to go with you to this new app, you would just think that taking yourself, what is it? It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You would think as the baby, because Elon's the baby in my analogy here, he doesn't want to go out with the bathwater, but he's putting himself out with the bathwater, in your opinion, in order to promote a new venture that no one will trust him to run appropriately. That sounds like a man with syphilis.
Be that as it may, I will counter your counter, and I appreciate that counter, but I would assume, if I may, that he may be depending on the uniqueness of this everything app to the US audience. We do not have anything like this here. There is no competition for it. But now if he flips the switch and everything goes from Twitter to X, and now your account stays and all that stuff stays, he just has so much more to offer. And the rebound the salvaging of this, it'll be such a completely different app. It'll be Twitter and so much more. And he would have taken Twitter so low, and this will be such a drastic incline, like a rocket ship, a starship, like a SpaceX starship. It'll just rocket up because he will have all this functionality and everyone will have it. And it'll be so much better in comparison to just Twitter. I mean, I'm imagining what he may be thinking, that it will be worth it. He is sabotaging himself because he knows that he can recover, but the recovery will be aided by this just enormous influx of capability.
Okay. Let's use another successful. Let's use a successful company, to sort of levy this theory against. When Walt Disney had a dream for a place called Disney World.
Disneyland, probably. Was it Disney World at that point?
Nope. Disney World was the dream.
Okay.
Disneyland already existed.
Okay.
And Walt Disney did not tank the appearance or the enjoyment of Disneyland in order to promote people going to Disney World, because Disneyland ended up being like a wet your whistle. This is so much fun. Imagine how much more fun you're going to have when we develop the world. You see how that went? But
he didn't need to get rid of Disneyland for Disney World to be successful.
Of course not, because they're both successful.
I don't think in his mind Twitter and X can coexist.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to say how poor of a business model this is. I'm trying to use a successful business model to say that if you were going to follow a blueprint, that might be one way to do it. I'm sure there are tons of others. Anyone who's been to
I'm not
school,
saying he's right. I'm not defending Elon
in Twitter. I'm trying to get at how Elon. Insane this man must be to think that if this is true, he might be in a worse place than it already seems. He may be in more trouble mentally in his mental state than it appears to most people at this point. If this is true, I think he's had a break. Something is. I can't see how this is a logical, something logical that this man is going to go down. I think this is
completely wrong. I could be completely wrong. You could be completely right,
because being a billionaire means you're deranged and you could do whatever you want. He's so out of touch with reality that you're right. He might feel that he could tank this thing and promote something new, and everyone will just fall in love with him because of how beautifully, how shiny and sparkly this new venture truly is.
I mean, he's annoying all the creators because he conflated their check mark with that of one you can buy for $8 a month.
Right.
So now, which again, I'm not arguing for or against, but he's alienating his creators. He forced NPR to leave. He's making
because I think he's just
arguably crude jokes,
crazy, weird, right leg.
Yeah, but
in some respects,
but that's the thing is
NPR thing had anything to do with his next venture, but yeah.
No, but I'm just saying that there's so much. Well, it would if he's intentionally trying to tarnish the name Twitter so that it's not as loved anymore. Like he's trying to break. Loved. He's trying to. Yeah, but you know what I mean. There's a brand value there. There's brand equity, and it honestly seems like it's not so much he's trying to tank the company because he needs the infrastructure, he needs the tech.
Yeah,
but it seems like he's trying to tarnish and diminish the brand equity, so that the brand itself, Twitter, is no longer valued, and he can just swap it and no one will miss it. And then he'll have to work to regain trust and all that stuff, whatever, but at least no one will miss Twitter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Here's my alternate theory. Maybe he's just really bad at business.
That is possible. Yeah, that is possible.
I mean, there's a less. I get it. You know what you're trying to do. What most people right now are trying to do is they're trying to rationalize this ingrained capitalist mythos of if you have money, you are smart, and it's breaking everyone's mind right now to think that it is possible to attain large amounts of wealth and not, in fact, be intelligent.
Do you want to know what may support my theory? Zuckerberg's attempt to rebrand Facebook as Meta. He tried to call it Meta. It was outright rejected. You don't really hear about it anymore except for as the parent company, right? where
Yes,
no one's
that's correct.
calling Facebook. Everyone still calls Facebook Facebook.
Yeah, but the
And
users. Yeah, but
yeah,
internally,
but that's
they're
what I
forced to
mean.
call
But
it Meta. Yeah.
would people reject X and always call it Twitter, even though he wanted it to be X? Like that's what I'm kind of getting at.
I mean,
And
if he's
maybe
as
that's his
bad a
ego at play.
businessman as Mark Zuckerberg, then yeah, probably. Mark should have probably graduated from college. Maybe people are finally
You
people
are
might
just shots fired from
start
Antoine
coming
today.
around to that idea. Maybe if
Shots
you graduated,
fired.
you would know how to be a mediocre business person.
Wow. Antoine came to today's show with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, the societal chip of wake up, everyone. These guys aren't brilliant. They're not brilliant. They came into a space in an area with no competition, you know, went to town on that space. And because of the way that capitalism works, there's almost no ability for someone else to come along and challenge them because they're just too big to fail. Doesn't mean that you were necessarily the smartest person on the block. It means you were there first.
Okay. There you have it, folks.
There you have it.
Either
disagree or agree. I love it. I love it. If people disagree. We
can't Antoine can't guarantee everyone can be good at business, but if you want to be, go to your doctor and graduate, and at least you'll be on the right foot.
Those are two things that a lot of people fail to do. And if they did them, yeah, they may not be so out there as they currently seem. So
all right.
There's a couple of other people that I think are incredibly rich and may in fact not be treating their syphilis. I'm not going to name names, but if you're out there, you can kind of gather what I'm putting down with that.
But if you know, you know.
Just saying.
All right. So I actually do have a real topic.
Okay.
Okay. So a recent tweet from the NRA shows Florida Governor Ron DeSantis surrounded by NRA reps privately signing a bill. This apparently is worth noting because DeSantis usually invites kids out. I'm sure you've seen them in some of his like big press gatherings before, and he likes to do a splashy bill signing, things of that nature. But this one was rushed.
He's not alone. Everyone
secret.
does it. I mean, the president signs bills, they bring out children, they do all these things. So let's not level that against Ron DeSantis as being an opportunistic politician. Every politician is opportunistic.
Fine, that's a fair piece of context to state. But the reason why I'm bringing it is because this picture was not that. It was rushed through and it was done in secret. Now I ask you, Antoine, do you know why? Have any idea why it was all done that way?
Because it's unpopular.
This bill gives Floridians the right to carry guns without a permit. You no longer need a concealed weapons license. And with that goes the mandatory background check and firearm training course.
I'm sure cops are excited about that one.
And this is not the only part of that. This bill is part of a nationwide NRA initiative. And Florida was the 26th state to adopt it.
Okay.
That's right. That means the U.S. is now a majority permitless gun carry country.
Permitless conceal. Is it conceal or open?
You no longer need a concealed weapons license.
Okay. So basically, we have reverted back to the Old West.
Yes.
That's basically what you're saying. Except in the Old West, you had to turn in your gun before you entered the saloon.
Yeah, that's right. You had to go in. We all seen Wyatt Earp, guys. He comes in and collects the guns.
There were more gun control laws in the 1800s than there are in the 21st century. We've come so far. We should definitely be proud of ourselves.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm so proud.
What I think is interesting, and this is what I'm going to say about this. The NRA, all the gun people, you can say whatever you want, but if you look at the facts of the matter in terms of, I mean, I'm not even talking about, I know you're going to go, you like to go ham on the actual statistics of like gun violence and things of that nature. I'm just talking about police. There are very few police departments that support that kind of legislation. They universally come out against it. I'm surprised that there isn't a statement in this article from either the police chiefs union or any kind of police union. Okay. I hope you get to that because I think that that's something that the gun people never talk about. They're always like blue lives matter, all this nonsense. But when it comes to this gun stuff, cops don't want people having guns. They don't want you to have them. They say it over and over again. They are anti-2A. They don't want you to be carrying weapons in public. The cops do not want that at all. So I just think that's a very interesting conversation that never really gets brought up. I think that's something that people should start leaning into a little bit more, is that it's not just that people on the left or what have you are against you and want to take away your guns. Cops don't want you to have guns either, but you claim to support the police, but you don't support them here when they're asking you, please stop trying to carry your guns in public.
I'm glad you're bringing up what people are saying, because I'm going to go into a few quotes now. And it is important to note that you may think of the NRA as just some benign organization that supports gun rights, but this is part of their bill writing initiative nationwide. This is one of their top agenda items, if not its foremost priority. They did this. Like, they are paying, they are donating to their candidates. They are rating their candidates on the level of their each candidate supports the NRA. They all have ratings, and they are out there pushing this stuff nationwide. They are very much activists. It's not just some organization.
Yeah, they've basically taken their playbook is the abortion playbook. They're quietly over decades amassing enough support that they can basically sell as much guns as possible to the right people. There's that. Go on.
So the NRA says, and I quote, "This is a momentous step in the constitutional carry movement, as now the majority of American states recognize the Constitution protects the right for law-abiding Americans to defend themselves outside their homes without fees or permits." They go on to say the carry movement began decades ago, and the NRA has been working to get this legislation passed throughout America. So there you have it. Through their own admission, they have been working for decades, as Antoine just alluded to. And they very much sticking to their guns from the 50s, 60s, 70s. The revolt at Cincinnati, when their fringe fringe element took over and reinterpreted the Second Amendment. They're very much sticking to it, that this is some constitutional right that they have. It is simply not true. It's documented, but there you have it. So
and the thing is, yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm just saying. I'm asking. Like, this is, I think either 2 episodes ago, maybe episode 115. I think whenever we talked about it's the guns, stupid. In that episode, I talked about what the left or what the opposition parties should be doing, because you know what, I don't think this is not a left or right issue. I think that people get that also misconstrued. There are plenty of people who are on either side that either don't like guns or would like to have more guns. That's why the NRA has been so effective in passing these legislations. They're not just doing it through a single party. They have supporters on both sides. I guess what I was saying in that last episode is that the to be facetious about it, we could promote more guns and see how they like that. Like I said, get guns into inner cities, get guns into the hands of Black and brown people, just as easily as you're getting them into the hands of white civilians in America, and see how the NRA likes that. This is such an interesting passage in these states now, because Florida has big brown population as well as a white population. What I like to see is how this is how this gets it applied, how this is enforced. Are minorities going to be the ones more frequently stopped for looking for guns? I mean,
there's restrictions though, right? I mean, if they continue to lock up minority communities at record rates that outpace and are disproportionate to white communities, and you're not allowed to own firearms with certain felony charges or however that works.
Right. Yeah.
So how does that, how do you reconcile?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how.
If anything, it's incentive to have tougher crime laws, however they phrase it.
Maybe. I guess what I'm trying to say though is that if everyone is now allowed to conceal carry, it, for me, doesn't that lead to less probable cause for stopping someone to see if they have a firearm? If everyone's just allowed to have a firearm, that's what I'm trying to get at.
That would, well, I mean, if I'm going to counter it, I don't even know if I'm being, what I guess I'm trying to say is they'll just find another way to, a reason to pull you over. If you're going to tell me that the motor vehicle stops are primarily to check if there's illegal guns in the car or if they're stored improperly, I would imagine they'll just come up with another reason.
Okay.
But it's an interesting point to flood the market equitably with guns.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
I would assume that that's what should happen based on that legislation.
If I knew that more people weren't going to die, I'd be a supporter of that, just to kind of break the logic. But I know what'll happen, and you just have more people in a bad spot, in the wrong time of their life, in the wrong situation, who are given access to a deadly weapon when emotions run high for one reason or another, and people will die, and just more people will die.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking right off that, you know, there's the fresh shooting. There's this the Missouri shooting. Have you heard of that one?
It's that Alabama, Tennessee. There's
this one in particular is the kid who walks up to he goes to the wrong address, and because he's looking for his brother, and the guy opens the door. It's an older white guy. This kid is 16. He's black. When he rings the doorbell, the guy opens the door and shoots him twice without any repercussion, because, you know, he's feeling like he's protecting his property. Again, I would always ask, how does that work with mail people and delivery people? Like, if you just shoot delivery people that have delivered to the wrong house.
Why are you allowed to bypass due process? Like, what is this carrying out judgment in the streets? Why do we have a court system?
You could ask that. I guess, but the reason I'm bringing that up is I'm trying to say, if in a world where that 17-year-old would have a gun, you know, I guess I'm trying to, that's to me is unjust. I'm interested to see how the system carries, like how the system goes forward with that particular shooting. And I think that's a topic for another time. But in those instances, because they happen in America quite frequently compared to other countries, if everyone is armed, how do you tell at that point? How do you tell when someone is being the aggressor if everyone just happens to have a gun? If you shoot a guy that was completely unarmed, wasn't even thinking of harming you, but of course, in these states, he has a gun because everyone has a gun. You know, how does that start to, like, does that now allow more justification for people to just simply open fire on someone?
It's a fair point.
Soon as
it's a fair point. If someone walks up,
everyone's armed.
If someone's walking up to you, and they look mad, versus someone's walking up to you and they're cursing at you, versus someone's walking up to you and they're making a fist, versus someone's walking up to you and they're flashing their gun, versus someone's walking up to you and they're holding their gun. Right. Like, at what point is someone a threat where you can turn and shoot them back?
Well, in a state, that's the thing. In these states, with these new laws, everyone's a threat at all times because everyone carries a gun.
A deadly capability. Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's crazy to us. I guess here's a sad thing. When back to being facetious about it, now that I see that they are actually willing to pass these laws, I realize that even if the gun violence rate shoots up next year in Florida, let's say it goes from, I don't know, 20% to 65%, 65% up 65% across the board, all areas of Florida, more gun violence. That will not stop. That will not roll back these legislations. That will not roll back them at all. That's what's frightening, is that there will be no way there will be no way to counter these types of legislation. Because they fully know that that's what's going to happen. They know gun violence is going to go up, and they're ready for it. And they're just
using it as justification for more guns.
For more guns,
it's part of their weird logic, and no one cares about math apparently in the GOP.
That's kind of, well, yeah. Well, if among their supporters, yeah. At the end of the day, it doesn't. No, there's no logical argument you will be able to bring forward that will roll these legislations back. All that will happen is gun violence will just shoot up in America across the board, and we will just live with it. It'll just be like, well, this is the price we pay because there's a small minority of people with a very strong legislative angle that have basically enshrined these laws under the protection of a constitutional amendment that really is not protecting this whatsoever. So
agreed.
That's sad. I think it sucks. It sucks as Americans. And I don't really know where you go from here. I don't know what kind of grassroots momentum you will need. I feel like you would need to change it at the courts. Yeah, it's gonna take a lifetime. It's definitely gonna take, or it could take several lifetimes to undo this. But
maybe right before we die, it'll happen, because the NRA is an institution. It is a very old organization with roots, with deep roots, and it took them decades. So, I mean, I just don't know other than a fresh new class of politicians coming in and just cleaning house on some of these archaic
But it'll be
laws that
overturned.
we
The thing
have.
is, even if politicians were to come in and start to enact laws to roll this stuff back, they will lose at the court level. When they charge them, when they go to the Supreme Court because of the stacking of the court, they would lose there. So there's nothing there's nothing Americans could do. This is just it. I feel bad. I know there's tons of people out there fighting. You definitely shouldn't stop fighting, but realistically, I don't think that there's anything that can be done whatsoever. And I mean, most of even our highest level politicians, Obama basically said that leaving office, that he lost faith in any possible gun reform after Sandy Hook. So
I think a lot of people, I mean, after that happened, every instance of, especially a school shooting, but just mass violence in general is heartbreaking and tragic.
Elementary school shootings.
But right after that, and nothing happened. I was like,
and we've had several since with.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Students.
After that happened, and then every one of them since, but especially after that one, I was like, nothing's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever going to happen off of the heels of something like this with this group of people in charge. We need,
but across the board. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like we just need
legislative into, like, we're talking about executive down into court systems.
Well, that's the thing is, though, even the courts,
across the board.
I mean, I understand what you're saying there, but then to that point, the courts can only enforce the law. And if this one that you're hanging on is 2A, well, then the states and the Fed need to come together and change that.
Correct. That's correct. That's
which is a tough hill to climb, apparently.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to read a couple of these quotes. Sure. You heard the NRA's supporters of this bill say the background checks for concealed carry permits are not substantially different than they are for purchasing a gun. So they're saying that what's the big deal? It's not any different than what you have to do for when you have a gun anyway, but I could not find a lot of details about that. The Florida Police Chiefs Association backs the bill. So the Police Chiefs Association backs the bill, but some Florida police departments thinks that it gives citizens more opportunity to take care of themselves. So there are some precincts that agree with it, but the mentality is odd. So I'll repeat that again, right?
Yeah.
The Police Chief Association backs the bill. They think this is good. And some Florida police departments also think that it's giving citizens the opportunity to protect themselves. They said take care of themselves, doing the role of the police in this instance, which is an odd stance for the police to be taking. They're like, in a sense, deputizing en masse the entire state. But other police departments like Orange County and the Miami Dade Police Department said that the new law is going to make policing more difficult. It adds more guns to violent situations, which isn't rocket science. Like, that's it. Right. You have violent situations and you're injecting more guns into it.
I think that, here's the thing. It sucks that we have to make nuance here. I wanted to just make a blanket statement to say that most police forces think that this is a bad idea. You're saying the Miami-Dade police force does not agree with it. That is probably one of the largest, if not the largest, police force in the state of Florida, Miami, right? Because that's the largest city. So therefore, that is going to be the largest police force, correct?
It's a fair assumption.
So you have their analysis based on coming from a much more an urbanized environment, an environment where you need more experience. So they probably hire cops with a lot more experience because you're just dealing with so many more variables than you are in maybe a rural community where there's 100 people that live in your town. You got 6 cops for there, and they are and the thing is, you're interviewing them with the same weight to say that they're like, oh, it'd be great if these guys could take care of themselves, so we have less that we need to do. Is that fair? Is that fair to do the Floribama handle like area that's like almost unpopulated with just, basically rural out there, to take that police force and then use their wording against someone as big as Miami's police force?
I mean,
I would say no.
That's a microcosm for the country, isn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm just wondering because universally, usually police forces in cities are like, please don't do this. This will make our lives and the lives of everyone we try to protect on a daily basis that much more precarious. It has gotten significantly more dangerous to police these streets for everybody.
And they're not alone. Gun safety groups say allowing people to carry concealed guns in public without training and removing additional background check will make the public less safe. No surprise there. It's a gun safety group. But public polling, okay? Public polling on this issue has shown it to be widely unpopular in both political parties. 77% of respondents opposed permitless carry, and the majority of those respondents were Republican.
Okay.
So no one wants this.
Well, someone wants this.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But the people
Somebody
don't.
wants it.
The police don't.
Majority of police don't, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the associations, right? They're the ones that want it. The organizations, which seems to be the driver behind this whole thing. It's just very, the people with mass capacity, the entities, I should say, the entities with mass capacity to make donations that could make money off of this seem to be the ones driving it, whereas the people are the ones in body bags. So, yeah. Anyway.
I'm more shaken by this news because I just watched the documentary on the Boston Marathon bombers.
It's on my list. How was it? The 3 episodes, right?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't really like it at all. But,
no?
No. But the key takeaway I took away, which is not the documentary's point at all, because the documentary definitely, and rightfully so, they talk about the heroism of the cops who put their lives on the line in order to stop these guys. It's such a crazy event. It was on the heels of, not on the heels of 9/11. I think it's like 10 years, 15 years prior, but still, clearly at a time, and I don't know where our country stands today, but, where terrorism and Islamophobia walk hand in hand. A lot of that was just, cringy to see the way that the media treated it with regard to Islamophobia. I feel ashamed for us.
Things age quickly. Things age quickly now, don't they?
Yeah. But my key takeaway, despite all that, so you've got a lot of stuff going on here. You've got the fact that these two guys decide to do this, which is just an evil, unconscionable act. There's no justification for that kind of thing. And amidst all of this, I'm talking about, these are heavy-handed things. You've got, you've got racisms, you've got just like, a severe lack of empathy towards human life. You've got misplaced nationalism, going on. And the thing that floored me out of all this stuff in the documentary was that by the end of the documentary, the Boston police force had discharged over 300 bullets in and around the area of Cambridge and another town in Boston called Watertown. They had discharged 300 bullets in a densely populated urban city, trying to kill 2 people. That is people who are armed and trained with weapons, supposedly every day. They go through training like every day.
Isn't it something like they hit like their target 30% of the time or something like that? There's stats around this.
I'm sure there is. All I'm trying to say is over the course of
it reminds you of like stormtroopers from Star Wars, doesn't it?
It makes you realize maybe that's not so. Maybe George Lucas was more realistic in his portrayal of what happens when stormtroopers tried to hit a target than people would like to give him credit for. I'm actually starting to believe that George Lucas might have been a genius.
My thing, and I'm
not trying to. By the way, I'm not trying to take away. By the way, that's what I want to say. It is incredibly heroic what these guys did.
I'm not trying to compare them to stormtroopers. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just was the link there. But what it made me think of, right? Because I've heard the stat before. Maybe it was a moving target. Maybe police hit a moving target 30% of the time. It was something like that. And I apologize if I'm misquoting the stat. But given what you're saying, these are trained professionals.
That's what I'm getting at.
What the heck is the general population doing with these weapons?
That's exactly where you're finishing up the point. That's exactly what. That's why I'm more shaken because of that fact. Because I know that in a stress-induced, adrenaline-induced environment with people who have been trained to deal with stress and adrenaline and discharge their weapon while trying to minimize as much collateral damage as possible, these guys shot up the city of Boston. There are bullet holes. They missed killing a baby by 7 inches in one house with their fire. Over 300 bullets in the course of a day, one day and a night. Trained professionals. I just can't get this around enough. These are
what kind of chase was that? I mean,
stationary. This is just returning fire, just firing on 2 guys.
Wasn't one of them found in a boat or something?
Hiding in a boat? Yes, at the end. That's the very end. That's the very end of it. Spoiler alert. That's the very end.
I didn't realize there was a shootout. And what, they escaped the shootout?
There were multiple shootouts. Yeah.
Maybe I do need to watch this because
they escaped. They escaped the shootouts.
God.
Yeah, they escaped the shootouts with all these cops firing.
But they didn't cover the back.
They did.
Through the sewers.
There was even an exchange with one cop being 6 feet away from one assailant. And I
need to watch this. That's incredible.
And still, he hit him, but again, to the point, these guys were not trained with weaponry. The guys who did the Boston bombing, they were not cops. They were not people who trained in weapons every day of their lives, so they were not great shots. That being said, the people who completely outnumbered them and outgunned them missed them 300 times. And that's all I'm trying to put out there. And these people, this NRA group, is going out there signing bills, getting politicians to sign bills to allow your average Joe Schmo to conceal carry with little to no training.
How many cops?
Expectation that they are going to protect themselves is just completely insane.
I mean, how many cops do you think there were in some of those shootouts? Do you know? Did they give you an idea? Is it like 20, 50, 100?
More, yeah, it's about it. I mean, look, based on the numbers, like the way that they're showing in the documentary, I would say there's like 50 or so cops, maybe more.
Wow. I mean, just imagine. So it's not like a numbers game where, wow, we're just going to have more people and eventually those 2 kids or 2 guys, whatever they were, will get hit.
Yeah.
It's that it's just wildly chaotic. I can't imagine they're just bad marksmen. I think in the panic or the heat or the chaos of the moment, you're trying not to get hit. This isn't, you're not in this, you may be training, but you don't take return fire regularly. Like you're not prepped for that.
Right.
You're not trying to like get killed. So it's just craziness probably. What would it be if the entire town was just unloading on one another? Like crossfire, like you had the whole neighborhood armed shooting up into the, like it would just be pandemonium. It would be absolute chaos. Yeah. You don't want that. Yeah. Anyway, that's that. That's crazy.
I'm saying this is about the willful ignorance of facts. They know this. The people citing, like DeSantis knows this. They have staffers that brief them with statistics.
Smart dude. He went to Yale and Harvard. He knows.
Maybe
he can comprehend.
At this point, I'm not sure what the Ivy Leagues teach. At this point, it feels like you enter the doors.
It's not a matter of what they teach.
Give you a blue ribbon, and you sit around for 4 years, come out, and then you get a cushy job on the back end of it. Because you look at a guy like Cruz, and you're just like, come on, man. There's no way that this dude was smart enough. Like as smart as you're supposed to be to get into these places. I don't know. I'm beginning to lose faith.
I think that they are very intelligent. They may not be the most intelligent people. I think that they are very intelligent. I think that they understand how to comprehend information. What I think is happening is that they see this whole thing that we call life as an opportunity. They got their one life to live. They see an undereducated population who can be rallied and wielded, and they've decided which way they're going to bend them because it's the path of least resistance for them.
Okay. All right. I guess. I didn't go to Ivy League school, but I know the story of a little gentleman called Robespierre. Okay. I know my history. And usually when you think you're smart,
people are smarter than anyone else. All I'm saying is they are definitely capable.
There have been many points in our history where very smart, capable people believe themselves to be more intelligent than the crowd they were rousing and whipping up into a frenzy. Those people who whipped them up into a frenzy often met the guillotine. That's all I'm pointing out there.
That's a fair point. I'm not saying
someone
that
who's
they are
really smart would at least know that that's the thing. These guys are like it's like the January 6th thing. What game are you playing? Like your game is so precariously dangerous that to just simply say I've got one life to live and I'm taking my opportunity, it does not. To me, that doesn't cut it because I'm like, you're The fire you're playing with is so close to burning you, and you're the first person that people will go after when everything tips over. The first heads that roll go from the top down.
They don't think that's going to happen to them, though. This is not a new game.
So crazy. Yeah, that's my point. It's not a new game.
It's been going
it's a game
on.
that we've played.
And when you're getting $1 million
for hundreds and hundreds of years,
when you're cashing $1 million checks, Antoine, I don't know what that's like, but it's probably intoxicating.
All I'm saying is there is a history, and I just do not understand how you play. That's what I'm saying. If you're playing that game, this, by the way, we're not saying they are playing this game. This is your conjecture. If you're saying that these guys are brilliant,
there were a lot of kings before the ones that ended it. Like they just don't think it's them. They don't think they're going to be left carrying the bag.
The people carrying the bag were never the kings. The things, they're not kings. They're not kings. They should know. They know they're not kings.
They're little fiefdoms.
What's his name in the Tudors? What is it? Thomas More? What was that? He met the headsman. What is it? The chopping block. My point is, every guy underneath the kings in all king history, the heads roll. There's not a single point in significant human history.
Listen,
where the people right underneath the kings.
We've had a lot of messed up people in power, and very few times does anyone be held accountable. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but they're living proof. They're doing it.
Yeah, all right.
They're doing it. So. They're doing the thing. So. Doing the thing. All right, I got another one. You want one?
Yeah, please. Let's keep going.
Antoine, got a question for you to start this one out. Right. In general, which do you tend to disagree with more, Florida or Texas?
Texas.
I knew you would say it. All right, let's do this now. Let's do this. What we know about Texas, we know their stance on abortion. We know their stance on identity. But did you know that a monument of the 10 Commandments has been displayed on the Texas State Capitol grounds in Austin since 1961?
Okay.
More recently, Texas Republican Senator Phil King has said, I think this would be good, healthy step for Texas to bring back this tradition of recognizing America's religious heritage. What's he talking about, Antoine?
Yeah, what is he talking about?
He's drafting a bill that would require public schools to display the 10 Commandments in each classroom on a poster that is at least 16 inches by 20 inches. And I wish this sentiment was just contained to Texas, but last year, Colorado Congressman Lauren Boebert said the church is supposed to direct the government. So clearly this is a GOP thing. So there's that.
Yeah, but whose church?
Oh, well, her church. You know that. The Catholic Church.
Well, did someone ask that question?
No, because it doesn't need to be asked.
No, it does. You see, this is where the media fails. You see, this is my point. The very first question, no matter if someone says that in a press conference, in a room you're in, I don't know.
No, they say they say that stuff. They say it's this country's based on Christian values. They've come out and said that.
Which Christian values?
I guess maybe the Puritans. Maybe I don't know.
Who? Because we sure as heck hate when Catholics rule. We don't like when Catholics are presidents. We don't like when Catholics get to a certain level of seniority.
I think that's phase two. I think that's phase two. Phase one is Christians only.
Okay,
and then phase two is which Christians.
Then you start fighting for which Christians. Okay,
that's what I imagine they're.
Because that's the question I would have. I'm just saying. I mean, there's ample enough history. Irish need not apply. I mean, there's been so much anti-Catholic sentiment in America. Which Christians are you talking about?
All right. Fair point. But I think that they just mean Christians in general. I think that's where they're starting from to weed out everyone else that doesn't fall under that rather large umbrella. So at least there was a Pew poll study from 2021 that showed that more than 2/3 of respondents in Texas did not want the government to declare an official religion. That might have been a national poll, actually, not sure. But so no one wants this, at least the majority of the country that engaged in that poll. But yeah, Texas wants to put the 10 Commandments in every classroom on a nice little poster, which I think is absolutely crazy. Now, not to be outdone, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is expected to sign a bill that allows the death penalty with an 8-4 jury vote instead of unanimously. The bill has made its way through both the Florida House and Senate, and he's expected to sign it soon. This decision is a direct reaction to a jury not coming to a unanimous decision on giving the Parkland school shooter the death penalty. So instead of gun reform, DeSantis just wants to lower the threshold for executions, which most likely won't have any impact on mitigating school shootings or other violent crimes, right?
Well, why would it? Doesn't work that way.
Now, in 2017, Florida passed a law that required death penalties to be imposed only after a unanimous recommendation by a jury. So this is fairly recent that he's undoing this law. Like this law.
I assume that this will get met with the court system because there's got to be a federal thing on what. So the law you could do.
The 2017 one, right? The one when they made this unanimous. The law came after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down an earlier state law saying it's unconstitutionally letting judges determine the facts that would lead to a death sentence rather than juries. So this all got kind of swept up in that and said, all right, you can't do that, judges, and also this has to be unanimous. So again, what does this mean for Florida? Yeah. Well, prosecutors would only need to convince 2/3 of the jury that someone deserves the death penalty rather than all of the jurors.
Oh, no, that's good math, everyone.
Yeah, that's great, right? Side note, just to add on to the Florida pylon, it seems that now that Disney has outsmarted Ron DeSantis on its takeover of Disney World special taxing district.
Surprise, surprise, a corporation outdoes the public arm that's supposed to corral them.
Yeah, it was kind of entertaining. I mean, DeSantis is right, I've said it before, for all the wrong reasons.
But it's funny to have everyone rooting for a corporation to defeat the will of the people. That's what I think is really ironic.
Well, that's what I mean. It's for all the wrong reasons. He's doing it out of spite,
right?
Because of the statement they made,
right?
But it had so they've
got to flex their power to show people openly that corporations rule this country, and in this instance, people are actually rooting for it, which I think is very. It's a weird place to be.
It is a weird place to be because it's like your logic versus emotions at this point. I mean, if I'm going to put it plainly,
that's kind of where you go with. You're like, wow.
Because the thing is that DeSantis is not the will of the people. Like, it's the thing. There was no referendum. Now, whether or not this should ever existed in the first place or should is an interesting topic. But it's not like the people spoke out in opposition to this. He's doing this because he got dirt in his eye, right? And so he wants to. He wants to throw stuff back at Disney.
He is the people's representative because he supposedly won his election fair and square. The majority of the people voted him in to do what.
But he's only doing this because Disney actually looked out for the people. You know, it's some weird paradox.
It's a.
But anyway,
Kobayashi Maru.
But so there, he was outsmarted by Disney, which has got some comedic value to it. So the governor's next threat now is that he owns a piece of property. The state owns a piece of property adjacent to Disney, and the governor is threatening to build a state prison on that property and to add new state inspection requirements for theme park rides and its monorail system.
Okay.
So he's trying to turn the screws in other ways.
Yeah, of course, because I mean he's petty, and instead of governing his state, he's going to war with the single biggest money driver for that state, which of course makes complete logical sense because it
might be one of the biggest draws this country has, period.
There's nothing better than to put the screws to your biggest tourist attraction, hugest money generator for your state. Nothing like depressing the economy of your state in order to stay in office. There's nothing like that. I've never seen anything like it. Not only that, but for someone who has their eyes on the presidency, nothing like running on depressing your state's economy to say, if you like what I've done here, wait until I get into the Oval. If you don't like having money and having jobs in America, vote for me. Big boy DeSantis over here. I'll make sure that no corporations want to come here for the remainder of my term as president. That's going to be so much fun.
Also, just saying, I think an early version of Mickey is now hitting the public domain. So I'm really curious to see the political cartoons that'll come out of this now that the New Yorker can use Mickey.
Oh, well, I mean, hey, that's great. Great. Copyright. Thank God. So I guess what are we, 70 years past the death of Walt Disney at this point then? Must be.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like the Steamboat Willie version.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's got to be yeah, because the copyright law is ridiculous in this country. That's why we don't have innovation, because literally the way you get innovation is by taking old ideas and improving on them. In America, you can't take old ideas, so there is no improvement, and then we
Yeah.
wonder why we can't have nice things.
So I'll ask you again, Antoine.
Who's worse?
Who do you disagree with more, Florida or Texas? You budging or
What I like about these two states is that they can easily be taken out, like taken off of our registry. You could easily just wall off Florida and give Texas back to Mexico, which is the right thing to do. And we'd be fine. Because we got oil in Alaska. We're drilling the heck out of that. We're hastening our domain up our demise up north. So it's good for oil. Give it to Mexico. I'm sure we're going to still mess with their politics. They will never rise to anything. I'm sure we'll still get money out of that oil. So I just say give them back.
I don't think that's going to happen,
It's a
but
shame. I
yeah,
think Spain would love Florida back personally.
I don't know. And I'd be curious how those two cultures would mix.
Not well, because you can't carry guns in Spain.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's a little
so
different over there.
guess they're going to arm up.
So
See who shoots better.
so I got a science story.
Okay, fine. All right, wrap it out. What is this science story?
All right, Antoine, I found this one to be really, really cool as someone who has been incapable of maintaining my houseplants. Apparently, plants let out an ultrasonic scream that humans cannot hear when their leaves are cut, are stressed, infected, or they don't get enough water. Just to be clear, the emitted sounds do reveal the plant's type and condition. Does that make sense to you?
It makes me never want to own a houseplant ever again.
I mean, if you're cruel to it,
Well, I mean, this is horrible. People prune their plants all the time. They're like, hey, you're getting out of the little area in which I've carefully curated for you. Now you're telling me that these things are screeching every time you cut a leaf?
kept together for hundreds of years,
Oh my
kept alive.
god.
Or
This
you
is
cut them and then
horrible.
plant them. You grow roots and you plant them, and
And this is definitely making Christmas trees feel a little awkward. Can you imagine?
yeah. Oof.
To us, you go to a Christmas farm, we're playing music. It's like, here comes
No
Santa
one can
Claus,
hear
here
their
comes Santa
screams.
Claus. And no one can hear.
It's drowning out the
Just
plant screams.
screeching, blood curdling screams across this farm for all
And
these trees being cut down. I
wonder.
feel nauseous thinking about it, actually.
So, and apparently, insects and other animals can hear and interpret these sounds, and that healthy plants are virtually silent. So, in that scenario, you have all of these little critters observing humans flocking to this tree farm. The trees are screaming at the top of their lungs, and the families are laughing and having a good time and cutting it.
Wow.
Wow, that is pretty. That
It's
is pretty
dark.
horrific, isn't it? Yeah.
You know what? Sounds like a good children's book.
But I'll say the article, I'll put this on the article, reassures me
Okay.
that there's no evidence that plants feel pain or have feelings. So guilt-free, huh?
I don't
No,
understand.
no evidence means they don't, right?
Is it no evidence because we can't hear them scream?
There's no evidence that the screams are related to pain or feelings. It's just a biological response. So I'll say it gets a little interesting here. It's not clear exactly how plants are making the sounds, but scientists suspect that the plants are able to pop air bubbles in their circulation system, causing vibrations in the plant. So that's kind of what's happening. And so you're stressing it, you're doing whatever, and air bubbles start popping. But the thing is that the air bubbles are popping in such a way where you know if it's an infestation, if it's pruning, if it's stress, if it's over or underwatered. I mean, you have to start asking, like, is there more to these plants?
Or correlation? I mean,
yeah,
I guess I feel like as an alien could say the same. Like, if you weren't human, you could biologically you source out why a human being is screaming in agony. If you puncture, like, you could say, "Oh, well, we're not sure that human being is feeling pain, but they're doubled over in agony because they've been their skin has been punctured. So if you puncture their skin, they scream, but we don't know they feel like, you know,
we've asked the human.
Scenario?
I can't hear him. I can't hear the human screaming.
Right. It looks like it's in pain, but I can't hear it, and we're not sure it is.
And we've asked it several times to tell us, and it hasn't.
And it hasn't. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Is it one of those scenarios? Because it feels like it's one of those scenarios.
Oh,
this is definitely the Tree Farm in Agony. To me, it's just a good children's novel. I just think it's a good children's book. I
think add that to the banned list of books. Add that to the banned list of books in Florida.
I think it's a very cool idea. Wow. Cool, creepy, but still.
I originally was thinking that this would when will apps be available to tell you this if you did decide to still have it. But there was this other article that was somewhat related that I found interesting. And so in 2019, there was a paper by the same team of scientists that just did this, that found that plants made sweeter nectar within 3 minutes of hearing the sound of bees coming.
Okay.
So this is a two-way communication ability, right? Like, that's pretty amazing.
That's like a Pavlovian kind of thing. Like, it's I get. I mean, that's more of like it's like when you salivate when you're about to eat. Similar thing to that, right?
Yeah, except so the bees are coming.
Yeah.
And the plant's able to produce more sweeter nectar within 3 minutes. So sure, if you're going to say that is,
they can feel the vibration of the wing, like that.
They hear the vibration, whatever it is.
Well, they don't hear whatever. They probably feel it. But...
Well, however they receive it, right? However they receive that disturbance in the air.
Yeah.
But that's the bee basically communicating with the plant. The bee is coming. We don't know if the bees are making a specific sound just around flowers, right? The bees are coming. The plant receives data. The plant changes its behavior.
Right.
And then this study is saying that depending on how the plant is feeling, the plant is sending out data, and insects and animals are receiving it and changing their behavior accordingly. So whether you
very harmonious,
say it's on like some type of aware act being committed, or it's how you have stated it, just completely instinctual and just some mindless cause and effect. I mean, either way, it's kind of interesting to see that kind of harmony, and hopefully highlights how amazing ecosystems are and how nuanced and connected things are. I mean, your plants are connected to the bees coming, and they're speaking to each other back and forth.
Makes me feel lonely.
You're not communicating. You're not part of it.
Well, I'm just saying.
Why aren't they talking to you?
I think that's something. I mean,
they might have at one time.
That Matrix.
They were like, you know what? We started doing this. We told these guys that you could burn trees, and now look at them. Maybe they're the ones that helped us out there. And then we started burning them alive, and they were like, "Okay,
it doesn't feel like we're part of this world. It doesn't feel like we're natural to this.
We're left out
to this ego." I just say that there's that Agent Smith
another children's book.
No, that the Agent Smith Matrix reference at the end when we were all kids and we were like, "Oh, he was," he goes, "You're like a virus kind of thing." This is the kind of stuff where I'm like, are we? Like, I mean, we laugh it off, but like, aren't we a virus? Like, are we in tune with this planet? Because we seem to be the only ones left. The more we learn, the more left out it seems we are of the natural order of things. There's a big joke going on here, and it feels like we might be it, but in like a dark sense, where it's like you laugh because they're shrieking in pain, and we as humans can't hear them, so they just accept us, can't do anything about us.
But every other animal and every other animal and insect can, and I feel like they're just like rallying support from the entire animal kingdom.
It's like less support. It's more of like a I guess it is a support system. It's a comfort system. It's like a comfort in hospice kind of thing.
It seems cruel, but
we seem cruel. Not it seems cruel. We seem cruel. When you break it down, we're cruel. That's us doing this. We're the ones with the mass tree farms.
It's an interesting thing, though, and I know that I'm pretty sure bees and all that have been around for quite some time, way longer than us. I don't want to say millions of years, but I almost want to say millions of years. So I'm actually,
but not at this size, right? Not in the same.
I don't know, but I'm drawing a blank. But I feel like they've been around for quite some time, and I guess now that you're saying all of this, when you think about the symbiotic nature of these ecosystems and the entities within them and how they evolve over time to survive, if we were such a detriment, unless it's relatively new, which I think it is actually, I don't think we went around destroying ecosystems like we do today.
No, yeah.
Would they evolve to scream at a lower frequency so we could hear?
Could happen.
Imagine the first person born with that. The
Yeah.
world
I'm
is just
sorry, it took me a
screaming
minute.
at them.
It only took me a minute because I had to decide whether they would be exercised, like whether they would be similar to Socrates. If basically they could hear it, they came to people and said, "Hey, I could hear these trees," and we said, "Please go away now." I feel like that's the first instinct. So I feel bad for them on two fronts. A, that they end up being the Dr. Seuss Lorax, running around saying, "I speak for the trees," and that everyone laughs and doesn't believe them and wants them to leave our society because that is severely inconvenient.
Oh, they'll be committed. They'll be committed or put on medication.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And
maybe even crucified. Maybe. Can
you imagine hearing that for real?
Years, and then there'll be a religion dedicated to them,
and no one being able to tell you what it is, but you just hear screaming all around you all the time, and it's real.
I mean, it would drive you insane. So yeah, who knows? Yeah, you here's the thing: you wouldn't procreate, so you wouldn't pass on that gene. And so I don't know when the next time human beings would have access to that type of ability because that's the thing: you would never pass.
It could have already happened. It could have already happened.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Wow.
You would either, because you would be socially outcasted. You would, in a harsh way, in a way that you most likely either would end up in an institution or you would end up dead in some, depending on the severity of the culture that you've been born into. But you're right, it could have happened, but it's very not likely that you had the chance to pass that gene on. That's where I'm coming at.
That was supposed to be that was supposed to be a happy ending. No, that
was a good show. I'm glad that the sun is out and the seasonal depression is starting to end because there's more light now. Because what are we? We're on standard time. No, are we on we're on daylight savings time, right? This isn't standard time. This is daylight savings time. So I wonder if that's why DeSantis feels more empowered. Like, I feel like the daylight savings time gives him power. Like, he's like the evil. What was it? Superman 4? There was like the evil guys. That evil guy that was like made purely out of the sun's energy. I feel like that's DeSantis. He wants more sun to give him more evil power, like more power to do more evil things. I think that's what's going on here. That's why he's on overdrive. He wakes up when there's more sun. And that's why he wants daylight savings to be the standard time. Because he wants to, this is how he is going to rule the earth. I think that might be his power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another theory. You got a bunch of those theories today.
Syphilis and super villains that run on sun energy and solar powered supervillains.
Solar powered syphilis.
It's a terrible combination, but also a very powerful one.
Nice. All right, guys.
Cool. So, JB, where can they find us?
Folks, we got new content every week. Like and subscribe us on YouTube, Twitter, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
And with that, we bid you a very well retraction. Ow.